resign basically from my job, give up all the stabilities, give up my nice salary, my nice apartment, and really go back to being an entrepreneur. Sure, which is about coming together for the greater good. Let's help each other to achieve a greater goal. Airbnb literally canceled every single booking we had overnight. Close to 5,000 members now.
Oh, wow, okay.
And what
And okay, so Robert, yeah. Hi, Robert. Maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi, Roland. First of all, thank you very much for having me on the podcast today. Very excited to share more about my personal journey, as well as the business that we're building in Indonesia. To give you a bit of background about myself, I was born and bred in Belanda. I then moved to the UK for my studies, and then I've been living in Southeast Asia for about 8 years now. So time has flown by. I started my first company when I was in university. It was a tailor-made shirts company, so we made custom shirts for our customers, and we sent it across the globe.
Nice.
I was able to sell that business, and then I moved to Singapore about 8 years ago.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. Now, so Robert, you are in Indonesia, right? In Jakarta. What made you move to Indonesia? Maybe let's start from there.
Good question. So I was originally based in Singapore, where I'd been for about 7 years. I was involved in a variety of commercial roles, working for larger entities, but I always wanted to become an entrepreneur again, be my own boss. So about 2 years ago, I felt like now was the time to resign basically from my job, give up all the stabilities, give up my nice salary, my nice apartment, and really go back to being an entrepreneur. So I was looking at doing a fractional property investment platform. Now, doing this cross-border out of Singapore is very challenging. The domestic market is way too small, so you've got to look outside of Singapore. So I then looked at which markets could be of interest in terms of total addressable market. So I looked at India and I looked at Indonesia. So initially, I had met an Indian co-founder. So we pursued the Indian market. We spent some time in Mumbai meeting with developers and finance platforms just to understand the potential. We realized quite quickly that we couldn't make it work in India. So we parted ways, the co-founder I was working with at that point. And then a month later, I met an Indonesian co-founder who was based in Jakarta. And we kind of hit it off right from the beginning. We had a really good connection, not just on a work level, also on a personal level. And that was really the trigger to say, let's build Goro, or what is today Goro, for Indonesia. And I said, you know what? I'll move to Jakarta for this because the majority of our users are here. My co-founder, the team, the property. So I should really be on the ground to understand what's happening.
Oh, interesting. Wow, that's a kind of journey, huh? Now, you mentioned about Goro. Now, can you explain a little bit more? What is Goro?
First and foremost, let me explain the name.
Sure.
Goro stands for Goyong.
Gotong royong.
Yes. Which is very deeply ingrained in the Indonesian culture, which is about coming together for the greater good. Let's help each other to achieve a greater goal. And that's exactly what we do at Goro. We allow anyone, regardless of their background or their financial position, to invest into property, Indonesian property, from just 10,000 rupiah, which for our international listeners is roughly about $1. So we make it extremely accessible for anyone. So in the Indonesian context, that means that even your Gojek driver, or for the international listeners, your Uber delivery guy, can now invest in property.
Wow.
And that's what we've been building for the past year and a half now. We launched the platform about 1 year ago.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Now, why property? Because you said you're from Singapore and then you come to Indonesia and then suddenly you see, oh, real estate, right? What makes you think toward real estate instead of maybe, I don't know, something else? Maybe like stocks or, cryptocurrencies, right? So,
yeah, good question. This journey actually started about 7 years ago. So after I'd sold my company in the UK, I moved to Singapore when I was involved in a couple of commercial roles, but I was looking for some side income. And like many people do, you go on holiday to Bali. Being quite curious, I was wondering, hey, look, I know how much I'm paying for rent for this villa. How much is it to buy this villa? And then you do a quick sum, and quite quickly you realize that the rental yields on Bali properties are phenomenal. Any good property will do 12 to 15% net rental yield. So that's just rental yield alone per year. So that's how I kind of got into that market. I started to invest some of my own capital. And quite quickly, my friends and family were like, Rob, can I co-invest alongside you? Can you give me some advice on where to invest? What type of property? How do you manage this? What are the returns, risks as well? And as more people kind of approached me, I will start to think about, is there a bigger opportunity of building a fractional property investment marketplace? Obviously, my side business was severely impacted during COVID. I still remember the day that Airbnb literally canceled every single booking we had overnight. But I was extremely passionate. That was very painful. And during that 1.5 year period, I had the same energy to maintain my properties, to have my staff still there. We still had guests, luckily. So the fact that I was so passionate about doing this without making any money, it made me realize that this was probably some sort of calling that I should pursue this, and which is why I decided to quit my job.
I see. Wow. So you're doing this full time for this as the CEO. Wow. Very interesting story and background there. And
thank you.
You mentioned about Bali, but why you moved to Jakarta? Is it because of your the partner is in Jakarta, or?
That's one of the reasons. My co-founder is based here in Jakarta, but honestly, Bali is just a very small piece of Indonesia. I know for the international audience that perhaps has never been to Indonesia, they just know Indonesia as Bali. But Indonesia has a population of close to 280 million people, and Bali is a very small part of this. Even if you think from a GDP perspective, Bali as a tourism place contributes, I think it's about 3% to the total GDP of the country. So it's an extremely small part. So we said, look, this business works in Bali because I've been doing this for 7 years, but we've got to look beyond Bali. So we said, let's find opportunities in Jakarta as well. So we have properties available in Jakarta also, and we're looking to expand across the country as we scale the business. But there's a number of other reasons for being here. First is to show that we can grow beyond just Bali.
Right.
Second one being is that all the big developers are here. All the big corporate firms that we could potentially do partnerships with in the future are here. The government obviously is here. The regulators are here. So everything that needs to be done to really scale a startup is done from Jakarta. And obviously, the majority of our audience, our majority of our users are also based in Java. So we've got to be here.
I see. Wow, interesting. Now, Robert, if you could explain a little bit more, how does Goro work? I mean, in terms of the Goro purchase a rental properties, if I may say, and then Goro sells the shares, right? If I may say, which you call tokens here, right? That's the share, or the shares basically for the shareholders to purchase one share equal to $1 or $10,000 rupiah. Yeah, correct? Am I right? And now the question is, who is managing that property? Or is this property currently running? Or it's like totally new that you guys do the property management, do the ads to find tenants, the maintenance all together. So how do you manage all of those, and what is that related to the person who purchased the one share? So the cost also shared.
For the user, it's very easy. They just buy a token in the property and they become a beneficial owner. They get the rental yield every month and they get the capital appreciation. That's the simple part. What behind the scenes is actually very complex. So we spend a lot of time with lawyers and tax advisors just to see how we can build a scalable business. So what we do is we also looked at the landscape in terms of what other opportunities are available, what are other investment platforms doing. And we realized there's a lot of shortcomings in the way they operate. So what we do differently is we acquire the asset first, but we get very favorable payment terms with the developer. So we don't necessarily need cash to pay for the full property up front. And what we then do is we start selling them in the form of tokens, which is always 10,000 rupiah for one token. Now, if a property is 5 billion rupiah, divided by 10,000 gets to 500,000 tokens. So that's a very simple sum. What we then do is, depending on the property, the location, the area, we either outsource the management, we give it to a management agency, For example, if it's in a complex, it makes sense to give it to an agency that does the entire complex. So they can optimize pricing. There's economies of scale on the maintenance and the pricing. Certain properties we rent monthly or yearly. And in these cases, we decide to do it in-house because you don't really need a management agency to manage a villa that is rented yearly. In Jakarta, so that's more on the Bali side. In Jakarta, we work with agencies as well. So they kind of take care of the whole process of finding customers, tenants, cleaning, maintenance, everything is taken care of.
Okay. So basically at the end of the day, the profit, which is the 10%, what we say, is after every cost, right? The maintenance cost and any things that basically we need to cover. Okay, makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good bottom.
Yeah, so there's two different ways of showcasing your numbers. So you can talk about gross income or you can talk about net. So we took a decision that we should only reflect net returns to our users because that's really the money that they will receive every single month.
Right.
So we have deducted management fees. We have very comprehensive insurance on the properties as well. Obviously tax and whatever is left, that goes back to our users. On the website, we say it's up to 10%, but you may have seen that some of our properties actually deliver more. But every single month we tally the amount. We subtract all the expenses, which again is very transparent. As a user, you'll get a monthly report that actually shows how much money you make per day. And then we distribute the rental yield back to our users.
Okay. And Goro is charging the service fee, like I think like Airbnb, or you also get the same amount as the shareholders? Or is that the way it works? Or
as a platform, we're not invested in the property. Any unsold tokens are owned by us because we technically own the asset. So we do make money in that process. But once the property is fully sold out, we don't take any fees or we don't make any money from the from that property per se.
The purchase. Gotcha.
Yeah. We take a 5% upfront service fee, which is very transparent on the website. If you go under any of our properties and you click the financials tab, you can actually see how we make money, how much we paid for the property, closing fees, our fee. And the way the fee works is that we take the total property value and we increase it by 5%, which is our fee. That's how we calculate the tokens.
Right. So you said earlier in the website, and I believe you guys also have an app for this Goro application, basically, which very conveniently people can access anywhere, right? I mean, not only in Indonesia, but they can also do this probably in the United States or in Singapore or in Australia, and they can simply, create an account and they can pay through like Venmo, PayPal, or its own bank account.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our website and we have an iOS as well as an Android app, which all have the same features. The reason why people come to Goro is for passive income. So it all starts with how do they get that monthly payment? And then we make that from the property. So that's kind of the process there. So the app allows them to conveniently track how their portfolio is doing, how many tokens they own in each property, the rental yield reports. They can also see the latest properties available. In terms of markets, we serve people from 24 different countries at the moment. So we have people from all across the globe investing into high-yielding Indonesian property. I must say the majority of our users for the time being are in Indonesia. Because when you talk from a marketing standpoint, targeting Indonesians versus foreigners is a very different strategy. So we said, let's build a product for the Indonesian market first. Now, our users love us. We have a couple of users who have made more than 400 transactions. So these are people that have entered their bank details more than 400 times on our website. So if you're talking about product market fit or stickiness of the product, our users love it.
Nice. Wow, look at that. I also intrigued actually to join. Let's see. Maybe I should invest more in here, huh? Because, the thing of, if you think more about it, like you mentioned earlier, when you, as a foreigner, I know it's not that simple to purchase a real estate in Indonesia. It's not like in the United States, like, people can just purchase no matter if you're American or you're foreigners, and they treat you the same. Versus in Indonesia, it's a very different system there. And by through Goro, it makes that, are you an investor willing to invest in Indonesia? There you go. You have your platform here, and then the people will do the job, and you can just sit in front of your computer somewhere in Bali, having a holiday or maybe somewhere else, and then the passive income keep running. Am I right?
Absolutely. Look, investing in Indonesian property is extremely challenging, especially as a foreigner. There is
Right.
obviously a language barrier. Financing as a foreigner is not an option. The type
Right.
of the land titles you can own are also somewhat restricted. So there's a lot of complexities there. So that's where we come in really. We say, look, what you care for is the return. Technically, people want to own a piece of paradise, but why? They just want to get the good returns. So let us take care of identifying, sourcing, doing due diligence on the property, acquisition. So all the properties that we buy, we do extensive due diligence. We look at the historical rental performance of the property. So we said, what has this property been doing over the last year? And are we comfortable that that property can continue to deliver the same, or can we even increase the income on the property? Then we do structural analysis on the property, what is happening in the area, what is the growth potential of the property and the area. Then all the paperwork, the legal documents get drafted by the notary. But as an
Nice.
additional layer of protection, we send it to our own lawyer. So our
Okay.
lawyer vets all documents again. Because at the end of the day, this is not my money. This is the user's money. So I need to do whatever I can to make sure that the user's money is protected. So that's why we go
Nice.
through a very complex process. It doesn't make it easy necessarily. It makes it quite complex, but at least it
Right.
makes me sleep well at night knowing that the money that my users have invested, that have trusted us with their money, is well
Uh-huh.
looked after.
Right. Wow, great. This is very great. You know, you do your homeworks, I would say. Because, you know, like regulations, laws in Indonesia is not that simple, you know, especially coming from foreigners, like even from Indonesia themselves. It's a lot of layers, you know, layers upon layers that, you know, people can always bring something out of, you know, that's why when you say you have those multiple, even you have your own lawyers to check, keep checking. Yeah, this is very good business practice here that you have. That's great. That's great.
I think it's very unfortunate, but there's been a lot of scams in the Indonesian market over the
There you go.
last few years. A lot of people
Mhm.
have fallen prone to this, have lost a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually a challenge for us because people come to us and they go, are you another scam? So we put a lot of time and effort into showcasing to people, look, we are completely legit. And what I
Mhm.
like to call this puzzle pieces. So we do a lot of small things where have been receiving quite a bit of media coverage. There's a
Mhm.
TV show going live soon on Channel News Asia called The Big Spark,
Oh,
which
okay.
Goro is also part of. All
Mhm.
our properties have signages on them. We have Google Maps locations. We show you the notarized documents. So everything is extremely transparent, just to show the people, look, we have nothing to hide.
Right.
These are legitimately owned properties by us, and we want you to be a part owner in this to
Mhm.
get your rental returns.
There you go. Wow, that's yeah. It's legit. Yeah, now good thing that you about the you know, the scams earlier, because my next question will be, you know, there should be like threats out there, right? Considering Indonesia, you know, I'm not sure how strong is the security. I mean, like cyber security that I'm talking here. How do you facing that threats actually? Because, you know, because I know people will have this kind of mindset. Oh wait, this is in Indonesia, yeah. This is not in like you know, like a United States or maybe China or United States, you know, England, or you know, somewhere in Europe. How do you face that threats actually, and especially if people ask you that question?
So this is very much around the trust, right? How do we deal with the
Right.
trust? What we typically see is users come to us, they see the platform and they go, look, I want to own property. As
Mm-hmm.
fast growing middle class country like Indonesia, the middle class is
Mm-hmm.
growing at something like 20% per year. And
Mm-hmm.
once people reach that middle class status, they really aspire to invest in property. It's one of these tick box things, right? I invest in property, tick. I'm part of the middle class now. So what we typically see is they see the platform, they're intrigued, they want to invest because financing is is very tough for locals as well, as a matter of fact. So they typically invest a small amount first. So they come on, dabble a little bit, wait a couple of weeks, see that first rental yield come in, they sell the tokens, withdraw the money. So they're doing like their own feedback loop. So they're just testing all the stages in the platform to see if we're actually sticking to our words. Because
Mm-hmm.
often what happens with these scams is you can't even get your money out. Getting money in is super
Right.
easy, but you
Yep.
can never take it out. So we are like, look, in
Uh-huh.
fact, for us to withdraw your money is easier than investing on the platform. So we've made it
Wow.
super conveniently for people to just test on this. But yeah, obviously, we
Yeah.
still get questioned every single day by users saying, how can we trust you? How
Mhm.
are you not a scam? And we're like, look, We're not begging you to invest, but if you like what we're doing, please come and join our community. We have a Telegram group that grew organically in the last 3 months to close to 5,000 members now.
Wow, okay.
And what we say to our new users, join the Telegram group and speak to our members, and they will happily give you advice on how we operate.
Okay. Yeah. How do people get into that Telegram group, if you don't mind sharing, Robert?
They can simply look for at Goro Indonesia on Telegram, and the group chat is there.
So at Goro, Goro
Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Yes.
So there you go. If everyone's still wondering to see, if this is something that I need to study before I involve in it, there you go. Feel free to join the Telegram group. I think that's very helpful. Wow, nice. You see, this is what I call the very transparent. The transparency of the company is very important, especially involved of this kind of money, right? I know it seems like people will say, "Oh, it's only like 10,000." Yeah, I mean, there you go. You can always try, But anyway,
they deserve the sorry, I was just going to say that our users deserve this transparency. It's their money, right?
Right.
So why should I hide stuff? So we try to do whatever we can to be as transparent as possible to them. In fact, what we've had is we have our users go to our properties. They are actually checking on the areas. They're knocking on the door just to see, like, is this really owned by Goro? And then they would share that back in the group. So the community, which is what Gotong Royong also really stands for, really lives amongst our users, where they're trying to help each other to succeed in life.
Wow, there you go. It lives up the name, actually, the company, Gotong Royong. There you go. Okay, and also the next question, Robert, because you Goro doing the everything by Goro's yourself. So is that mean you guys are also have people on the field, meaning you have this property manager, the agents, or people who are looking for houses? Is Goro doing that themselves, or you outsource those kind of thing, actually?
It's a different steps in the process, really. So having operated myself in Bali for the past 7 years, I have built up a strong network of agents that sell properties, of management companies as well. So what I do is I share our property requirements with them. And every time a property passes their desk that they think meet our requirements, they'll simply forward it to us. That's one.
I see.
At the same time, I work with developers. I also work with private sellers. So they simply come to us. I personally, is one of my favorite parts of the job. I spend a lot of time also just checking for properties because I really want to feel what's going on the ground. What type of trends are we seeing? What type of properties do people want? And I do the same with the management companies. Some of the properties that are managed by ourselves, I also dive into some of the conversations just to understand what is it that people really are looking for. So we can also ensure that we buy the right properties to maximize the returns.
Nice. Wow. Interesting. So are you also open for hiring? I don't know if maybe the listeners here think, oh, this is a very interesting company that, I would like to join, actually.
Absolutely. We're an early stage startup. We're always looking for a good talent that is excited about our journey. This is more about the mission that we're on. It's about helping millions of people become a fractional owner in a property. So if anyone that is passionate about what we do wants to join us on this journey, they can always reach out to us. So yeah, absolutely.
Wow, great. Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, is a good topic that we have here today with Robert. We learn very, many ways to invest, especially like you mentioned earlier, for those people in middle class, maybe lower middle class below, right? Because when people hear about real estate or owning a property, oh no, that's required a lot of money. But by having Goro here, it's opened the opportunity for them to start to learn, number one, to have real estate investment. Number two, to learn how to invest. And all the data and everything that they need is provided by Goro anyway. So they can just study that. If they don't really trust it, they can check themselves, right? It's open. They have like you said, you have the Google map. You can check the property. It's not like the Ponzi scheme. People say the property never exists, but this people ask me for $5 million. So it's not. So that's a good thing about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I wanted to share some interesting insights with you on this, actually. Indonesia, population of some 280 million people. If you look at the stats today, less than 5% of that population is investing. So there's a tiny amount of people that are currently actively investing. If you look at the US market, there's about 60, close to 60% of the population is investing. So that shows the potential that the Indonesian market has. When we started Goro, we thought that a lot of our users would come from other existing investment platforms that perhaps sell stocks or crypto, mutual funds, gold. But it's actually the complete opposite. 70% of our Goro users are first-time investors. They have never invested into anything else. And when we speak to them, because we like call our users and say, look, why did you pick us? Tell us some insights. And the reason what they tell us is it's so simple to understand. They understand what a property is. They understand that it's being rented out. It makes money. It goes up in value. So the only thing they need to understand is, how does Goro operate? How does this token work? How do I get my money? That's the only part. The first part of what a property is, they already understand. Whereas if you buy say a stock in Tesla, are you buying the underlying fundamentals, or are you buying Elon Musk's tweet when he's tweeting something? Are you buying the hype or the underlying fundamentals? So, and this is not necessarily unique to Indonesia. Even when I speak to my friends in Europe or in Singapore, they also tell me, look, I'm really struggling to understand these stocks sometimes. And crypto is obviously very much hype driven, where with property, it's simple. You don't really have to think. You just pick the property you like, the area, look at the reports, and then off you go.
Nice. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, great. I think that's all that I have today, Robert. Do you have any comments that you want to deliver to the listeners, Robert? Anything?
First of all, thank you very much for making time and having me on. It's super exciting what we're building at Goro. We have a lot of happy users every in fact, we have hundreds of new users joining every single day. So if any of the listeners are interested to find out more, please go to goro.id or look for our app in the App Store or on the Google Play Store or iOS Store. I'm always confused with these names. And if there's any questions, they can always reach out to me, or they can reach out to our customer service team. We're happy to help.
There you go. Yeah, so they're going to reach out to Goro and learn and see and ask, and yeah, have happy investing, that I will say. Okay. Yeah, well, thank you, Robert, again. Appreciate your time to join us today. So yeah, I will probably, reach out to you again sometime next time. see maybe we can have another part of this conversation. We'll see.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Robert.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.